to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know, I'm happy that you're here. Now, the word change and change in life, listen, guys, I get it. It can be heart-wrenching at times and pretty difficult, especially if we don't choose it and the change is thrust upon us. So to help you navigate your journey of change, I have a gift for you. In the show notes is my free communication style assessment. You will get 2 reports. One, spotlight your natural communication superpowers, kind of important to know so you can understand how your message is being received. Flip side, your lowest score, usually a blind spot. And that to me is an even more important report because it'll tell you how your message is being received by those that communicate opposite from you. So again, I hope that helps you navigate change that's happening in your life. Additionally, if you're loving me and you're loving the show, I'd love to have you be part of my all-star community. That link is also in the show notes. So come and play. I'd love to have you. Now, my motivational quote to set the tone or the stage for our conversation today is by Dave Ramsey. And Dave says, you must gain control over your money or the lack of it will forever control you. Now, looking back right on my career in business for today's topic, you know, I realize how curious I've become about my relationship with money. And I could see, you know, as you look back, right, it's easy to look back and see the ups and downs financially that I've encountered due to things that really have been beyond my control and yet sometimes in my control. And I believe that the only control that I have is about being aware of my current situation and then having some kind of plan to support what I'm doing now, but also those future objectives and goals, and knowing when to change my plan or my price structure or whatever is going on in my business. So I'm going to ask you, what's your relationship with money? Are you thinking, Con, I love money. I love spending money and money is a great thing. Or are you thinking, that's a really good question. I feel like I never have enough money, or no matter how hard I work, money seems to be hard for me to hold on to. Today's topic's kind of important, as you can see. No matter which side you fall on, you know my guest today is going to help us out. So she is a good friend. She is the amazing Chella Diaz. Now, Chella knew how to manage money at a super young age. At the age of 9, she would go to the farmer's market and knew the vendors with the best product at the lowest price. She purchased her car at 17 and her first home at 23. She knows money. Chella is on a mission to guide women entrepreneurs to increase their fees and create the life they desire. So please help me welcome my amazing expert and really good friend, Chella, to the show. So Chella, thanks for being on, kiddo.
Oh my goodness. It is a pleasure. Always, Connie. I was looking forward to this.
I know we have too much fun when we hang out, right, Chella?
We do.
But here's the thing. We're always strategizing when we talk. So we get work done while we're having fun. And money, what you're doing out there for business owners, especially women business owners, because I think the imposter syndrome, all of those things that we face. But I know you get super granular with your peeps that you're coaching, and you ask them to make a list of things that maybe didn't work in their business, let's say in the last 6 months. Why do you think, or why do you have them do that exercise? What's the benefit behind? For me, that's like a self-evaluation almost.
And that is going to be a $50,000 question. So we're going to see how much we're going to make today, because when we do that, and we've all had those things, right, where things don't go the right way. But when you have it fresh in your mind, when you make a list of that, when you see yourself going towards that direction, because we all see the signs, but you know, oh my God, I did this, this, and this, it is easier to get back on track. Right? Ignoring it, pretending it didn't happen, you know, being hard on ourselves, all of that is just not going to work. It's just an awareness. What went wrong, and how can in the future we prevent it? Even if we start to gear towards that, how can we get back on track faster? And to me, having that list is really helpful because you become aware of it faster. So instead of taking 3 months, 4 months, what if you're able to catch yourself maybe a week, maybe 3 weeks, right? It's faster to get back and pivot.
Do you recommend that your peeps do it quarterly, like do that kind of evaluation, looking back at the last 6 months, right? Do you do that twice a year? Do you say do it quarterly, look back at the past 6 weeks to see if any habits have gone awry or new paths that you had thought you were going to do if you've defaulted? Do you know what I mean? Is it so the reflection, how frequently should people do this?
I'd say to get started, do it every 90 days because you're going to catch yourself. And totally transparent, when I first was asked to do that, I fought it. I was like, I'm not doing that every 90 days, right? So I'm telling you, I was fighting it. But once I started doing it, I was able to get back on track faster. So when you get started, I believe every 90 days is a good way to go. After you get it down and after you do it, maybe you can just do it twice a year. But every 90 days to me is the key when you first get started.
And here's the thing, Chell, I think that's an important recommendation, because when you pause and you think about something, now you're thinking through logic, right? It's non-emotional. You're looking down to create this list. So it's very factual of this is what I did, it worked. This is what I did, it didn't work. We want to duplicate what worked, right? Let's lean into that. That's a good thing. But if things didn't work, we can clearly see it because we're mindful of what we're executing right every day by doing that reflection. And the other thing, I believe that when we're in motion, that even if it's the wrong step, you're still in motion, that it's easier to pivot, shift, take a giant step backwards sometimes even, right? It's not always about forward momentum. So I really like this habit. I think it's good. And here's the thing, I've been in business 22 years and I still think that's a good habit. And you know what's funny too, Chell? When most of my classes, I always have some exercise, whatever the topic is, of, okay, sit there and analyze what you've done in the past month, 2 months, whatever the time frame is. Because whatever the topic is, when we pause and think about it, now we're in a powerful position to choose to make the change or to clearly see the right change to make. Does that make sense?
God, yes, I think God is being recorded because we're just gonna have to come back and do that again, right? Right, no, because that's key. It is,
Yeah.
you know, it's the awareness, right? And also to me, with the awareness is we're humans, we make mistakes. You
That's
made
right.
a mistake. You are not the mistake. Huge.
Goes back to the mindset, right? And that's that volume, that record player mind goes really loud at times, right? So we have to constantly, and this exercise though, I like it because it also makes us mindful to lower the volume of that negative record player. I'm not enough. Of course, I made another mistake. Who do I think I am? Why am I doing all of that? Negative plays out, I think, pretty loudly in my life, at least. I can admit to that. When we think about planning our goals, what are the 3 key things that I know that you teach that we really should keep in mind? Because you're so much about goal setting, but are we doing it in an effective manner?
Yeah, you know what? And that is so big, because how many times, Connie, we've been doing this for a long time. How many times have we encountered somebody and they always say, oh, I want to make $1 million. I don't know why $1 million seems to be the magic number, no matter what time, 20 years ago today, but that, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's also, what are the steps? Okay, great. So now that you're going to have that, then what? Right? It's having a plan for that. What are you going to do? And how are you going to get there? Right? So this is, to me, it's like getting real. And it goes into getting real with your numbers. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with $1 million, but if you really look at it, how many clients do we really need who have the life that we desire?
That's right.
Getting real with what that is for you. And let us just say there's 50 clients. Let's say it's 100. I like 100. Let's say it's 100 clients. Great. Reverse engineer it. 100 clients divided by 12. Maybe you want to take off 2 months. 100 clients divided by 10. What does that look like? So we wanted to enroll 100 clients, concentrating and focusing on that 100 versus I call it the monkey chatter.
Yeah.
This person said no, that person said no, that person no. Focus on the 100. So I'm a note taker, and I'm proud to still do the paper, but I have worksheets, right? And I do this for myself. It's like, this is how many clients, and I number them, and I celebrate each and every time I enroll new clients, because it's getting me closer to whatever that is for you, whether it's 150, whatever that is, right? Depending on the industry, you may not need 100, maybe you need 20, whatever that is, right? But reverse engineer and getting real with your numbers, to me, that's the key.
And this is important because do you really need $1 million? Maybe you need $5 million to open a foundation that you want to do to give back to a community, the foster community, if you grew up in foster care. I mean, I don't know. So how much money for you? And there shouldn't be any judgment from anybody else. By the way, mind your own business, right? Mind your own P's and Q's, if you will. But also, what does that number mean to you, and how, why, like, what's the why behind it? I just interviewed another gentleman. We had a show a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about what it takes to become a multi-million-dollar earner. And the mindset is different than someone who's making even a multi-six-figure earner. And then the other thing he said, it was a sales conversation, and it's getting to that 1% of the sales out there, the 1% earners in the world, which is, billions even. And he said, do you really, just what you just said, Chella, that's why I'm giggling. It's so funny because the thought process is the same. Do you really want to be a 1% earner? What does that mean to you? And if you have to sell your soul and you have to work 90 hours a week to earn that or to get to that level, is that really what you want? So it was kind of funny. He didn't say get real with your numbers, but he says get real with what your goals are and the why you're doing them, so that you get clarity. And then you do what you said. I like that idea of backing into it. When I sold insurance 100 years ago, they taught us it was a numbers game, right? You needed 15 appointments a week to make whatever the dollar amount back then was, but you needed that average of 15 appointments a week. So and the rule was, like you said, every time you got a no, you knew you were getting closer to a yes. Statistically, you can't get 100% no's and you can't get 100% yeses. So every no, you're getting closer to that yes. So it's the same concept of you need 100 clients or 20 clients, do that check off. And now you're seeing the trajectory, you're seeing the momentum that you're building to get to whatever that number goal is.
That's so key, right? And also, no matter what, let's use 100, let's use 100,000. So if you're at the 100,000 and you want to level up, whether it's double, triple, it doesn't matter, right? Know that you need to hang out. You need to start swimming in a different pond.
That's right.
Right. So whatever, and that's why we are constantly working with coaches. We have so many different mentors. It's not just that, but also the people that we are talking with. Because that's a whole different, right? We need to elevate ourselves. And I say this truly, truly not to brag, but I was part of a couple of different groups where I was the most experienced person in the room. And although it felt good for my ego to be able to help others and answer questions, it wasn't serving me because I was not being fed.
Yeah.
I was not being challenged. So, and I played the game for a little while, right? But we also have to become aware of that. Are we really hanging out in the right rooms? Are we talking to the people that are going to help us elevate ourselves first? Yeah. In order for us to elevate our business.
Well, Chella, look back, like I look at my friends now and they're CEOs, they're CFOs, they're business owners. As you escalate your career in life, there, people, my peers are my age, we kind of been in the trenches together. So you create these wonderful relationships. And that's going to be my next question about networking. But, as you elevate, you're going to find the right people with you, but you can't get ahead of yourself. And I love how you said that you shouldn't hold yourself back because it's good for ego or it feels good. Because and here's what I always say to my kids, especially, life is challenging. It shouldn't be a struggle. When you're in struggle, something's off. Stop and self-reflect. But if it's challenging you and pushing you to the next level, that's a beautiful thing. So challenge and struggle are to me two very different words. So what you're describing, if I'm staying in a room where people have less experience and I'm the one where, oh, you should try this, which I don't mind ever doing, but that's not where I have to play, because it's not rising me, it's not challenging me. And we have to constantly be uncomfortable in our comfort zone and challenge that. Otherwise, we're not growing. And then you're not serving your people the way you should be serving, right?
And absolutely, I'm not saying don't give back. I'm all
Oh
about giving back,
gosh, I know
right?
you
That's not
are.
what we're saying at all. But what we're saying is that for me, I know that that's not where I need to
That's right.
invest a lot of time.
That's right. That's right. So now let's talk about networking, right? Because as we grow our careers, your people are growing their careers that, you started with. Like I started in the trenches 40 years ago. Well, they're executives now and wherever they are, right? What is intentional networking when you talk about, like, okay, we have numbers, be real with your numbers, but now we have to put the pedal to the metal, if you will, right? Rubber in the road here. It really does start with that networking. What is intentional networking for you?
And this is coming from a recovering networking queen that used to go to 20 networking events a month. So I know what I'm talking about here, right? So, I was challenged to cut back on my networking. I really was, by a coach. And so I had to stand back. So now I do intentional, where I go to the groups and we got to kiss some frogs. Let's face it. We do. We got to test out what's out there.
Agreed.
Right. And also intentional about, this is not the place where I need to be. Right.
That's
We go in, we talk to people, we give it a go. But where are you truly going to be hanging out? I'm going to be hanging out where people are like-minded and they're in to build relationships. They're not in it for the transaction.
That's right.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the transaction, because we all do it. Sometimes you just need to get that quick cash flow. Great. There's places for you to be able to go out and do that. However, to me, networking is a long game, right? This is that 10K we're going to do. This is that marathon.
Yeah.
It's about building relationships. It's about getting to know each other in such a different way. Like, I know what you do. I know who your clients are. Anytime I come around or I come across somebody that can use your service, or if I repost one of your posts on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Because I know that you will be able to deliver. I just gave myself chills all over. So, but you got to get to that point. You got to build that support system, that trust, right? And that is going to take a time, right? I'm not saying it has to take years. It doesn't, but it does take time, and it's intentional. We're building, it's sharing each other's goals.
Yeah.
And I know people don't do that necessarily, but when you come together, and of course, I don't suggest that you do that on the first one-on-one coaching, right? But after you get to know each other, it really getting real about, what are your goals? How many clients are you looking to work with this year? What is that ideal person that you're wanting to work with, right? Because we don't know, and it's being clear, but that's also when you have those conversations. And how many one-on-ones do we have? But when you're so clear about your goals that you're able to talk about them. I'm looking to enroll these amount of clients this year. This is my program, right? The clarity that you have. And when you're on that, and it's about intentional working, to me, is building the relationships with people that are going to support you, are going to help you, and have the best interest at heart.
Yeah. And on the back end, they'll do the right thing as well. So that like-minded piece becomes critical. And, I'm all about building the relationship. That's how I've built my career and my business over 40 years. You got to build that trust. You got to be real. You got to over deliver over and over and over again. You can't rest on your laurels. It never ends. That's the long game. But it matters. Your reputation matters. And that's why people work with you or don't work with you, because there's that vibe, there's that message out there, there's that consistency, or inconsistency that's happening. People see it whether we think it or not. So the relationship in the long game, I think, is critical. And again, I've built my career on that. The other thing, the word clarity. I know I teach that if we are not clear, and it doesn't matter what you're selling, doesn't matter, and who the client is or the potential client sitting in front of you, to understand right here, right now, what do they need and how can you help them? And sometimes that means my offer or my solutions or my bandwidth, my zone of genius isn't what they need. They need Chella. So when I say giving them what they need right here, right now, sometimes it's an introduction to someone in our network. And that's how we grow together and we support each other. And it goes back to the clarity. If I know what Chella's all about, I know who to refer. Chella knows what I'm all about. She knows who to refer. But it has to start with the client in front of you. You have to customize those solutions so that you're serving the person with their problem right here, right now, not taking your solution and finding the problem out there, right? You want to be of service. And I really believe that to my core. That takes time. You have to build relationships. That's not always a one and done. So again, clarity, relationship building, not being transactional, playing that long game, all of these things, I think, is what equates to success. And then you fill in the blank of what success means to you.
Exactly, right? Because success, and we go back to, the person that wanted to make the million or the 10 million or the 5 million, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's also what goes with that is the lifestyle. Right? Because if you have a mom with 2 young kids, obviously she needs to, take care of and the food and the thing versus somebody that's, maybe 45, 55 and is single, has no kids, right? It's a different lifestyle.
That's right.
Right? But also same thing, what if you begin to think about intentional networking and maybe you go, I want to have 5 people in my close network. 5 people that I communicate maybe on a monthly basis and getting to know, because things change, right? But the more you're in communication with them, the more you learn. Maybe you connect with them based on their hobbies, right? It is not always about the business. When I started having the conversations about the interests, what people's interests are, for me, it's built deeper relationships faster because we have a common ground.
And it goes back to the clarity. If I have clarity of what you do and what I do, all of a sudden we can now help each other, right? While being in integrity, delivering all the things that we talked about. I know you are very wise when it comes to the money drama from childhood. How have you seen it with your clients? How does that money drama from when we're kids show up in our career or business now as adults?
And again, I don't believe in blame or shame. So this is not about what the parents or the adults did to you. No.
Right.
Right. It's very clear. So it's whatever that is that, let's say that as a child, somebody grew up saying, we can't afford it. You can't have whatever it is. As adults, what I have seen is that they go out and these are the people that go out and shop, the people that go out and then spend pretty much all their money on stuff and things. Because down deep inside, they're trying to make up for whatever they didn't have in their childhood, right? I've seen it so many times. And when we step back and we simply say, acknowledge that's the money drama that we experience.
Yeah.
That was an experience. What were the lessons from it? When you begin to see the lessons, it automatically happens because you're no longer subject to it. You're no longer wanting to replace whatever that was. And you're able to make a different choice. So now maybe you'll start saving some money. Maybe you're going to invest some money, right? Because you're no longer just triggered by, well, I got to go get it. I got to go to get it, because you're wanting to make up for the lack of as a child.
That's right.
I don't want to say the word magical, but it really is, because once you connect the dots and once you become aware that that's what you're doing, then you're able to shift it.
This again, it sees the clarity, man. I think we have to seek clarity. Otherwise, we're constantly in muddy water and it takes us longer to achieve or complete or get to where we want to get to, right? And impact the world the way we want to impact it, right? Whatever that is for everybody listening. And it was funny, we all have money issues. So I've shared this story before, Chella, but it's worth repeating. We were little, when I was a little kid, I was probably 5 years old, and we have a house. I'm recording from our summer house. My dad bought the house when I was 5 years old, and we would come down the shore. I know I'm a Jersey girl. It's the shore here, but we would come down the shore every weekend, and we would, drive home and back and forth. And I remember one time we were driving home, and I was awake because we would drive late at night. My dad, we would get in our PJs, so we get home and literally climb in bed because we had school the next day. Well, we wouldn't because it was in the summer. But anyway, we're driving home, and there's these big houses. I must have been awake, and I look over, and we lived in Newark, New Jersey, right? This city. And I remember saying to my mom and dad, oh my God, like I'm a kid, right? Who lives in those big houses? So in my mind, it was like a princess, right? And at the same time, my mom and dad pause, and they go, bad people live there. They have guns, they kill people, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh. And you don't ever want to be here at night alone. And so fear at the mob. It was the mafia. Lived in Newark, New Jersey, in these big, beautiful houses. And it's true. They shot each other, though, right? So fast forward now, I grew up in Homedale, which is a very beautiful, affluent town. And my husband and I were coming down the shore, ironically. And they had just built this 10,000 square foot house, massive, at the end of the street that I lived on. And I looked over, and there were little tykes in the driveway, little red and green slide and stuff like that. And I look at my husband and I said, ugh, I wonder what he does for a living. I bet he's a crook. And my husband's like, whoa, judge much? Well, Chella, can I tell you, I thought, oh, where did that come from? It like flew out of my mouth. So for the next 20, 30 minutes, I was talking to my husband, where did that come from? Let me reflect back. And I went back and I remembered, I was probably 6 years old. And I remember that moment. And I thought, big houses equal crooks. Lesson, was that true? No, it's not true. So I immediately had a shift in that mindset of money. But here's the second piece of that. My feeling is, well, if you're successful, you must be a crook. So I was holding myself back early on, probably the first 12 years, 13 years of my business, for fear that people would think I was a crook if I was successful and earning, quite a living. So isn't that interesting how it plays out? Even I'm intelligent. I have an MBA in finance. It meant nothing with that inner child screaming at me about my money beliefs. So we all have them, whether you think you do or you don't, you do.
Well, and again, I'll have to say this again. Thank goodness we're recording, because that's it. It's what that little girl or what that child took on as a story. And you said something which I see all the time, is that if you were told, the people with money are crooks, let's go with that, right? I'm going to sabotage myself because I don't want to be known as a crook.
That's right.
So even though I have a great product, a great service inside of me, because I don't want to get to that, I'm going to stop myself. And I know that may not make any sense, but I invite your listeners to think, what or challenges are you coming across that's preventing you from achieving the financial success that you want? Because just like that, I could not have put it any better, because it's that little girl, right? And your reaction to it, and also the way you held yourself back, right? But once you make the connection, but Connie, this is huge, because once you made the connection, that's when I talk about, once you become aware, I think of it as connecting the dots.
That's right.
Then you can choose a different outcome.
And here's the funny thing. I had a coach, and we were talking one day, and this came out. See, you're constantly connecting the dots, by the way, right? It's not like you have this revelation, like, whoa, this download happened and I'm fixed. Like, it's still effort to say, okay, yes, that's the crook. Okay, yes, I'm holding myself back. Yes, right. You have to constantly talk to yourself. But I was talking to a coach one time, and it uncovered that I was holding myself back, fear of success. And they were like, why? And I go, because people are going to think I'm a crook. It came out yet again in that conversation. And the person said, but are you? And I go, no. And they go, anybody that knows you, are they going to think you're a crook? I go, oh no, they would never think that. Then what are you worried about? And it was like, I should have had the V8. Yeah, right. So we all have it, Chella. I get it. And
we do. We all do. We truly, truly do it. And kind of you and I have been doing work on ourselves for so long.
Yeah.
I just recently started working with a new coach, and believe you me, the stuff that came out, I was like, what? So it's constant. But the thing about that, instead of me saying, which I've done in the past, oh, I thought I dealt with that. What happened? Why did it come back? I said, you know what? This is a different layer. I am growing. I'm expanding. I'm preparing for a bigger, and you put whatever it is, right? It's a process. Think of it as the process, right? This is just the process, and it's how we're choosing to react. Especially after you do as much work as you and I have done, right? Yeah. And especially how we help people, right? But from time to time, at the end of the day, we're still humans, and they're lessons, right? They're lessons for us, because the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we expand, the better we are able to help others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes back, and I'll use a very tangible example. That's an emotional, right? Where we keep peeling back our onion, keep going back. And then as we level up, those wounds or those hurts or those beliefs, limiting beliefs are still there. We just lower the volume. Oftentimes it's really what we're doing right through that practice. But people will ask me, they get an objection from the client and they go, well, how would you respond? So I think for a minute, I think I would say, and whatever I answer the question, oh, you're so good at this. And I go, you've been in sales 5 years. I've been in sales 40 years. Why would you compare yourself to me? You've just set yourself up for failure, and in an unfair way. So it's the same concept as somebody in sales. They could be really good after 5 years, right? I was successful in sales after 5 years. Much different than what I am 40 years now. So it's that we're talking about that same concept of leveling up skill, but you have to pause and reflect and look for the clarity before you can level up. That's really the long and short of it, right, Chella?
Well, not only that, but if you think about it, right, we are always competing in sports. This is something we were programmed, right? Yeah. How many times do we need to do? I don't care what the sport is. Yeah. Right. I enjoy playing jacks as a child. I still play jacks as an adult, I got to say. But I do. There's something about it that it's
relaxing.
My brain works anyway. So, but the competition, because we were programmed to compare. But I got to tell you, even if you and I did the same thing, and there's just no comparing, because we got to bring in our experience from our childhood.
That's right.
We got to bring in so much more. The only person, and we never, ever, ever really know what the other person is going through. No, we don't know if that person is crying at night because they're in, so much pain. We don't know.
That's right.
So to me, comparing, it's about, especially 40 years, 5 years. Apples to oranges, folks, apples to oranges. Yeah. There's no comparing. It's like, how can I get myself better by 1% this month?
That's right.
That's right. It. It's about me. It's like where I was a year ago, where I am today, where I want to be a year from now. I know people overuse this, but this is an inside game.
It really is. Yeah, it's an inner game, kids, and it doesn't change. And, I'm on the back end, the back nine, right, of my career. It doesn't change. I'm learning every day. COVID, we all had to pivot hard with COVID and learn new skills, whether we realize it or not. Stop and reflect on that and think, where were you pre-COVID and where are you post-COVID? Guarantee your tech skills are better. Your communication skills online are better. Your emails might have been more improved because you had to have more clarity because you couldn't run to someone's cubicle and ask them a question. Think about what skills you developed just because of that environmental event that we had no control over. But did you learn from it? It was a good event, right? I know people died, don't get me wrong, but you have to look for that silver lining. We are out of time, my friend. Guys, here's the scoop about Chella Bella. If you would like information or connecting with her, which I really do recommend, you can email her. It's moneymap101@gmail.com. go to her website, which is chelladiaz.com. I will put all of this in the show notes. Additionally, she has programs that she promotes, some workshops and webinars and stuff that you can join in over time. Again, if you feel that you're having some money issues, I'm going to post her LinkedIn link in the show notes. And then this way you could connect with Chella on LinkedIn and you'll see all her posts. She's very active like me on LinkedIn as well. Chella, anything else before we say goodbye to my peeps today?
I say we've covered a lot. I encourage you to go out and take one action.
One
action.
Amen.
Just one
That's
action.
it. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Kiss. Keep it simple, silly. It works. Chella, thank you so much for being on. As always, a delightful conversation filled with so much depth. That's the word I'm looking for. Depth and idea. And I love the list. Reflects 90 days. When you get your sea legs, so to speak, do it at least twice a year. With clarity comes good decision making, and that just moves everything a heck of a lot faster. So thank you for being on, and thank you all for joining me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are on your journey of change. I truly hope my guests and I share some tips, some idea, some strategy that you can take and implement. Information is a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong, but if we do nothing with it, it's simply information. Do what Chella said, take one thing, make that list, reflect, take 5 minutes and reflect and create that list. That's one beautiful action step that you could take immediately after listening to the show. Here's the deal. With action comes reaction. And to me, that's where the magic starts happening in your life. So again, I hope today's show was informative and helpful for you on your journey of change. You've been listening to me, Connie Whitman, on Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. As always, I am honored to have you on this journey of change with me. And I hope weekly as you tune in that you do find inspiration at the end of the day to move into action for you to create the magic you deserve. I love you all. I will see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Chella, for being such a great guest. We'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks again.